Gut health is the foundation to all human health. If you don't know who I am, my name is Mark Iron. I'm a certified nutritional consultant, and I want to show you how to interpret a GI map, as you see on screen there. And as we progress, you'll see that this person's biggest problem is that he's got very poor gallbladder function. So very simple to correct, but you can see very severe metabolic imbalance, maldigestion, and severe dysbiosis and a couple of infections there. So we're going to talk about how to fix that. Now, the first video should be linked below. What we use is a functional north to south model. We have to go through all of these steps. When I went through and did my certificate in nutrition, I took extra courses on gut health. This one is from Dr. Daddis. His information is linked below, and this is what he talks about when it comes to healing your gut. Listen to this, my friends.
Is when we look at why a lot of patients fail is they don't start north to south. They just start right at the south. They start right at the microbiome. So the concept of north to south is you make sure each of these steps are evaluated first. That's why we do the questionnaire form, ask questions about chewing, swallowing, motility, stomach enzyme production, hydrochloric acid production, pancreatic enzyme production, gallbladder production, the ability to have proper motility, making sure there's no tight junction issues, and making sure that the microbiome is healthy and working. Those are all important steps that have to take place in order, like a domino effect, in order for the gastrointestinal tract to work well. Skipping the north to south model is guaranteed to cause patient failure. So now let's go through.
So as you can see there, as we progress, you'll understand exactly why. Now, why is the gut the foundation to all human health? Because your gut has an enteric nervous system, it has a brain, and this brain speaks to all of these organ systems. So if you've got anxiety, depression, brain fog, cognitive decline, well, the gut isn't helping if it's sick, because we've got anxiety, stress, depression, schizophrenia, cognitive decline, and even autism. And then your endocrine axis, so your hormones are all screwed up. Then heart disease shows up. And we've also got asthma, wheezing, seasonal allergies, rhinitis, and the liver, as you'll find here, like the liver is foundational for gut health. And we've also got the pancreas and gallbladder, the bone, and the muscle axis. So if you want to pack on muscle, which is super important as we age, we have to make sure we've got a healthy gut. And what about accelerated skin aging? Do you want that? Well, the gut skin axis, acne, cirrhosis, atopic dermatitis, and even alopecia, hair loss, and the reproductive axis, so the testes and men, ovaries and ladies. We're talking bombed out testosterone for dudes and infertility. Same is true for women, but the opposite hormone there, estrogen and progesterone, kidney, and the gut bladder axis. Now, guess what else we've got, which is really fascinating? You got a gut eye axis. So we're talking about glaucoma, diabetic neuropathy, and also age-related macular degeneration. So the enteric nervous system is speaking to a lot of different organ systems, and none more important than the thyroid hormone. So thyroid hormone is foundational for gut health, absolutely key, along with the gut testy axis there. So infertility and bombed out testosterone. So as you can see there, pretty big problem. Now, one of the biggest problems that I've seen coming from the old school of medicine, which is mainstream, to functional medicine, is that when you've got a sick gut, it's a progression of autoimmune disease. It could show up in your life, and it is for a lot of people. So your constipation, your bloating, your stomach pain are early signs of autoimmune disease developing. And one example is Parkinson's disease. So you've even got young onset Parkinson's disease, 10% of cases, 20 to 40 years of age. Now, when I spoke to Dr. Ken Berry about these topics, human health, peak performance, this is what he said. It really just absolutely shook me to the core when he said these words. Listen carefully.
Absolutely. It's often too late by the time you've become financially comfortable.
Yeah.
Very often you've done so much damage to every tiny artery in your body that you're now stuck with permanent erectile dysfunction or permanent forgetfulness or permanent insomnia, permanent shortness of breath, chest pain, right? Gut issues. You've done so much damage. Some of it can't be taken back. And that's why I'm so active on social media, constantly reaching out in trying to help people, because once it's too late, you might regain a little bit of that function, but it's never going to be like it once was, and it's never going to be like it could have been. Yeah, and that's very sad if you think about it, that somebody's basically handicapped for the rest of their life, physically or mentally or emotionally, because of bad dietary decisions that they made for the first few decades of their life that they didn't realize were bad decisions because they had never been trained properly.
So basically, mainstream medicine will say, well, Parkinson's disease is idiopathic, meaning we don't know how it is caused. So you got all these symptoms and you're progressing towards big pharma drugs and Parkinson's disease, things like that, autoimmune disease. You've got colitis. You've also got a whole bunch of these other autoimmune diseases like lupus. You've got rheumatoid arthritis, and you've got Hashimoto's issues with your thyroid there. So here's some early signs that I learned from Dr. Daddis about Parkinson's disease. So have a look at that right there. So these are the big ones. So you start to get little twitching in the limbs, especially when you're resting, and your handwriting gets smaller as you age, loss of smell from things like bananas, dill pickles, licorice, coffee, peppermint, trouble sleeping, and you become a bit stiff and, you can't really move properly. Constipation is a big one, a very slow, soft voice. And of course, and what's really crazy is that expressionless face. So a lot of people are just, when they get older, their muscles just don't work properly. This is what Parkinson's can do. Dizziness, fainting upon standing, so hunched over, stooping, things like that. But you've also got things like, really bad stuff like fatigue. You've also got anxiety, depression. So there's a lot of big issues. And this is what I learned in the functional medical space when I went through and did my certificate in nutrition. And I've got this book linked below, Why My Brain Isn't Working by Dr. Daddis. So check that out. Now, one big issue with anxiety and depression, as you saw there with the gut-brain axis, is gluten. So we've tested hundreds and hundreds of people, and we're seeing over 90% have some form of gluten sensitivity, whether that's full-blown celiac or just a sensitivity, and it's destroying your gut, your thyroid, and even your brain tissue, central nervous tissue too. So this is Dr. Daddis just speaking about that.
They get severe brain inflammation when they eat it. They can even have the blood-brain barrier, gut barrier breakdown. They can set up the stage for neurological autoimmunity. They can decrease blood flow to their brain. As their brain gets inflamed, their messenger synaptic pathways become slower, and they just don't function well. And they walk in the healthcare system and they get diagnosed with chronic depressive disorder or chronic anxiety disorder or some other name. And they get told they don't have celiac disease if they're even tested that way, and then they continue to have problems with it. So lots of papers have been published where they see white matter lesions throughout the brain. This is, for example, another study.
All right. So, you go to your doctor and they test you for celiac, but all they're testing, so this is the wheat protein. It branches off in the lectins, then the protein here, 1, 2, and 3. Gluteomorphine's like a morphine-like substance, so people are very addicted to it. But all they test you in mainstream is gliadin alpha and transglutinase 2 in the gut. And you can have all of these other issues with gluten. And again, hundreds and hundreds of people, over 90% have a sensitivity to gluten. So this is celiac brain, right? So you got white lesions in the brain. So think about that. And this is transglutinase 2 for the central nervous system and the brain there. It causes autoimmune destruction of the brain and nervous tissue. So on a gluten-free diet, a lot of it reverses. So you can walk it back. All right. So I just wanted to show you that information to show that it's absolutely serious. You don't want these autoimmune diseases progressing. If you like this information, help me out. Drop a comment below, like and share this to reach more people so they can understand that they don't have to live suboptimal, because a lot of we're told that as we age, we decline. We don't have to decline. Like I'm 53 and I've never felt better. And that's what I want for people that I help. So let's have a look at this GI map. The biggest problem with the gentleman that I'm helping with this one, he's got severe dysbiosis. And as you'll learn, a lot of it's to do with maldigestion. And because we have now looked at his GI map, he's got a big issue with his gallbladder. And the gallbladder is found foundational, as you'll soon learn in the next 5 minutes. And that's driving all of these issues, dysbiosis, because the gallbladder and bile triggers the whole system to work. It gets it back from dysbiosis to symbiosis, which is driving a lot of metabolic imbalance and also a couple of infections there. So let's just talk about why the gallbladder is foundational. Now, if you don't know what the gallbladder is, I'm going to explain it very simply for you, and we'll show you strategies of how to correct this. It's pretty simple to do once we do the GI map. So basically, legends, you've got nuclear DNA receptors. So the gallbladder, bile salts. The bile salts triggers all of these DNA nuclear receptors and also membrane receptors. And I'll walk you through that in a moment. And you also got DNA that plays into it. You can see this person has got very poor bilirubin metabolism, and that's going to cause the gallbladder to fill up with sludge. And I'll talk about that in a moment. Now, I just want to play this video for you. This is from Dr. Daddis, and all of his information is linked below. So again, when I did my certificate in nutrition, I took extra courses because I knew that the gut health is foundational. So this is Dr. Daddis speaking to how critical gallbladder function is.
One of the most common reasons why many patients never fix their gut, can never repair their leaky gut, can never change their microbiome diversity is they have a gallbladder issue that has not been managed. So this is why gallbladder problems are more than just inability to digest fats. Here's an illustration from a study published in Journal of Immunology, which shows bile acids really controlling these receptors in the gut that are important for maintaining tight junctions. And this is why if you have a gallbladder issue, you may never be able to fix a leaky gut pattern if you're struggling with that, or really fix your microbiome, because it's so critical to have these bile acids working.
So what that simply means, if your gallbladder is not working properly, you can't modulate your microbiome there, and also the tight junctions for the healthy intestinal barrier there. So it's doing a lot of heavy lifting. We've got to have a very high functioning gallbladder. So let's have a look at these DNA nuclear receptors. So we're talking about bile homeostasis, lipid metabolism, glucose homeostasis, insulin sensitivity, anti-inflammatory, liver regeneration, and everything else through this. So we're talking about detoxification and also bilirubins here. So again, if you've got a DNA issue with your bilirubins, it's going to cause sludge to build up your gallbladder, and it won't work properly, and all of these things get screwed up. Then you've also got membrane receptors too. So like this one here, we're talking about reduced heart rate, better heart function as well. And again, we're talking about insulin sensitivity through membrane receptors, liver regeneration, intestinal, so your intestines work as intended. So you can see that the gallbladder and also everything that the gallbladder does, like making bile salts, is absolutely foundational. So right here, the reason we know that this gentleman's gallbladder isn't working too well, because his trigs are high on a GI map. So that's the big key right there. And you can also do an ultrasound, and this is the gallbladder right here, and you can see that it's filling up with sludge. So when it's filling up with sludge, as you can appreciate, it's just not working too well. So this is problem number one. We have to fix the gallbladder. Now let's dig in a little bit deeper. So the gallbladder helps detoxification. Okay. So basically, we live in a very polluted world. We've got a lot of pollutants, chemicals, pesticides, mold toxins, big pharma drugs, the chemicals. The liver's got to detox those, phase 1, phase 2, food additives and preservatives, colorers, and hormones. Like if you want to keep estrogen at healthy levels to boost testosterone, the liver is absolutely foundational, and heavy metal detox too. So absolutely foundational. Now, the first phase is the cytochrome P450 enzymes. So you got to make sure you got all your vitamins and minerals covered to be able to facilitate that, and plenty of glutathione. Now that then goes to conjugation pathways. So this basically wraps it up and it sends it from the liver through the gallbladder. As you can see where the gallbladders come in, bile salts through the gallbladder, bilirubin production, and puts it into the colon. So you get rid of it. You empty it out into the toilet where you're supposed to put it. But the problem becomes is that if you don't have enough amino acids, if you're on a low protein diet, you don't have enough amino acids to facilitate that. So here's a couple of big clues for you right now. Glutathione, the master antioxidant, which is huge for detox. It's very, very toxic, the detox process. You need glutamine cysteine, and glycine. So those three amino acids make up glutathione. And then to detox, you also need glycine and taurine. So taurine and glycine are part of the bile salts. And you also need plenty of choline to make phosphatidylcholine. Phosphatidylcholine is huge for detox. So I'll talk about that in a moment. Now, what I've got on screen there, we know that his trigs are too high, so his gallbladder isn't working as it should be. However, and critically, he's got a lot of beta-glucoronase, nearly twofold over what it should be. So beta-glucoronase is made by dysfunctional bacteria. So this is the dysbiosis on that panel that you saw. And what happens is when you go through phase 2, it conjugates it up and packages it up so it's harmless. And beta-glucoronase undoes that. It unpacks all the hard work that your liver did. And then it goes back in a systemic circulation for round 2. So your liver's just absolutely crushed. It's always detoxing. It's detoxing. So everything slows down. Now, the simple solution there, if your beta-glucoronase is high, is to supplement calcium D-glucarate. So glucarate basically fixes that issue. Now, the problem becomes if you just go and supplement that, you think, oh, I probably should supplement this. If it's too low, that's bad. We've got to get it into the butter zone. So this gentleman here definitely needs a supplement calcium D-glucarate. But if you're here or here, that's a stupid idea. It's not going to work for you because it could put you down here in the red, which is not good. So this is why the GI map is foundational, my friends. Now, right here, here's a couple of the pathogenic bacteria that are pushing up beta-glucoronase. Really high levels there, really high levels there. So the gallbladder modulates the bacteria. So you can see how the gallbladder plays in the detox. It also modulates everything that I just mentioned, the DNA nuclear receptors, the membrane receptors, and also modulates the microbiome. So that's really important to understand. So just to tidy this right up now. So choline is really important. And because he's got good phospholipids there, and I've already got him to supplement choline, so he's getting enough choline, so he's got that covered. But you can see here clearly he needs to supplement calcium D-glucarate. So phase 1 through the cytochrome P450s, conjugation, phase 2, goes into the colon, you get rid of it. So let's have a look at phosphatidylcholine. So if you're not getting enough choline, the major phospholipid in bile, right, the bile salts to trigger all of those nuclear receptors and membrane receptors, you don't have enough of it. So you can't have a healthy gallbladder and detox system. So phase 1 and phase 2 liver detox, duodenum through into the colon there, and you detox. And if you've got an issue with beta-glucoronase, you supplement calcium D-glucarate, perfect. But if it's already in the butter zone or it's low, really bad idea. Now, we're not done with choline just yet because choline turns into acetylcholine, a neurotransmitter. Now, acetylcholine triggers rest and digest, as you can see here, the parasympathetic nervous system. So if you don't get enough choline, you're always going to be stressed out, right? So you can see how important choline is to make acetylcholine to trigger rest and digest so you can relax and digest your food, regenerate the tissues, and also regenerate the stomach and intestines. Now, where do you get choline? Well, unfortunately, there's not a lot of it in plants. Why? Because plants don't need it. They don't need to detox. They don't need the neurotransmitter choline, so they just don't need it. You're going to get a lot of it in beef liver, chicken liver, egg yolks, bacon, pork, salmon, but there's not a lot of it in plant materials. So the RDI for men is around about 500 milligrams. Now, we also do DNA consults. So this person here needs around about 1,100 milligrams per day. So needs a lot of choline to facilitate all of that. So you can see how important choline certainly is. Now, another big part of liver detox is getting rid of mold. There's a lot of mold in our world. So as you can see on screen there, this is a report that's back. Positive, positive, positive. And we'll just focus in on Zerolone here because it's 3 times over the healthy limit and it's a potent estrogen mimic. So with this one thing alone, this gentleman's never going to have optimal testosterone because it mimics estrogen. So when estrogen is too high, all sex hormone production comes down until you get estrogen back to healthy levels. And guess what else zearalenone does? It's also abbreviated into ZENs and ZELs, destroys the gut. See how that's pretty bad? The reproductive system, testosterone, the immune system, and metabolic issues. So there's a lot that goes into it, as you can see. Now, another big thing that we picked up on his GI map is that he's got 0 Akkermansia. So Akkermansia is a keystone bacteria. And one of the most important things that Akkermansia does is it thickens up the protective lining of your gut, your esophagus, your lungs, your sinuses, your intestines, your colon. And as you can see here, Akkermansia right there, it thickens it right up. So if you don't have a lot of Akkermansia, the protective line of your gut's very thin. Another one that can also push that one up is right there. So those two are going to really be helpful to make sure that you got symbiosis and great bacteria. But it's all for naught if you don't have a healthy gallbladder and also pancreas for that matter. So as you can see, a lot of things certainly go into it. I just wanted to give you one more piece of information here. A lot of people, unfortunately, they have a lot of chronic infections like UTIs, gut infections, upper respiratory infections, and also infections downstairs for the ladies, if you know what I mean, thrush. So what happens is this pathogenic bacteria, it starts to create this protective film to protect itself. It's called a biofilm. And over months, it starts to build up and all of a sudden it explodes out. So every 2 to 6 months, you got these chronic UTIs, gut, upper respiratory, and thrush for downstairs. So we've got to get rid of these biofilms too. There's a lot of things that can do that. If you want more information on that protocol, drop a comment below. I'm more than happy to talk about that on another video. So let's just talk about what also can destroy the gut. So basically, we also do DNA. And what you might know is that some foods your DNA doesn't like, and I'll show you how that plays out. So basically, when your genes do work, the main thing they do is make a protein. So if you're on a low protein diet, you don't have enough raw building materials, amino acids, to make these proteins in the first place. So this is a high functioning protein. This is all figured out in the genome. So the nucleus of the cell there. Now, right down here is what you call a SNP, single nucleotide polymorphism. The only difference is it's altered. And what does that mean? It just doesn't work as efficiently. So let's talk about how that can impact your gut. A couple of examples. So we've done hundreds and hundreds of these DNA consults, and a full 65% are sensitive to lectins. Now, this is Dr. J speaking about how deleterious lectins can be for the group of people that are very sensitive to them. Check this out.
The lectin is the big one. That's a 4-fold higher risk of heart disease, even as a plus minus, the SELE.
Yeah, that's huge. Yeah.
Yeah. So lectins are going to trigger a lot of damage to the arteries and damage to the gut. I would recommend avoiding grains. Yeah. You know, grains are the major source of lectins.
Yeah.
And his gut's very sensitive to grains also, with the gluten. And he's got a thyroid gene that comes up later with gluten as well. So I would say just take off the grains, you know.
So you can see how that's kind of bad, like hundreds and hundreds of people, 65%. Now, it is true that some of the clients that we do, really high sensitivity and some have a low sensitivity. But if you've got a sick gut, they have to be avoided like the plague. Another one is called Nightshades. Now, the interesting thing about Nightshades, you've probably heard of the supplement ashwagandha, right? Well, it's a nightshade. And guess what nightshades do to your gut? They destroy it. So if you have a sensitivity to nightshades, they will cause severe issues with your gut and also drive irritable bowel disease. So that's why you've got to really understand what you're doing when it comes to nutrition, because not one diet fits all. Like the system would have you believe all grains are healthy. Well, grains here, nightshades here, definitely not helpful at all. Like I know a few of the people that we help have both nightshade sensitivity, gluten sensitivity, and lectin sensitivity. So think about that. So pretty deleterious. And another standout that we are, that's really starting to come up a lot more recently is if you got this SNP here, whether it's homozygous, heterozygous, that's a big problem. because you've got a 2.1 increased risk of Crohn's disease. That's destroying your gut, your colon, your large intestines there. And you've got a massive increase. Now, ergothioneine is in mushrooms, very high amounts of mushrooms. So that's what this gene does. So that's mushroom sensitivities. There's a lot of ergothioneine in mushrooms. So let's just unpack that. So as the scientific literature now shows, ergothioneine administered to humans, ergothioneine levels in plasma and whole blood are significantly elevated and, interestingly, continue to increase in whole blood for up to 4 weeks after administration ceases. So we've got kidney disease, preeclampsia, myocardial infarction, pressure overload in your heart. Think about that. Liver fibrosis, fatty liver disease, increased reactive oxygen species, and insidiously reactive nitrogen species. So your blood pressure goes up, your testosterone tanks, causes a lot of oxidative damage, destroys your tissues, and it's stored in your tissues as well. So some people have a sensitivity to mushrooms and ergothioneine. And also, it's in supplements like lion's mane. So you got to be very careful about supplementation. And of course, as I mentioned at the beginning of this, gluten. Over 90% of the people that we've tested, gluten is a big issue. And it can cause celiac gut, celiac skin, and celiac brain. So it's destroying all of those organ systems. Now, let's talk about what destroys the gut. So I spoke about this in the first video, but I just thought I'd cover it again. So if you've got a shitty diet full of chemicals, sugar, processed foods, it's going to destroy your gut. If you're on medications like corticosteroids, they literally inhibit growth and repair and tissue regeneration. Antibiotics, of course, and acids, as I spoke about in the first one, xenobiotics. And then if you got infections, and that's what the GI map will show you. Now, the gentleman that's on this case study here today, he doesn't have any infections, thank goodness. Now, the same is true if you got too much cortisol, because it inhibits repair of the gut. And corticotropin-releasing hormone, which is the stress hormone, catecholamines like norepinephrine, epinephrine, they're big players. If you've got thyroid issues, you can't repair your gut. Thyroid is absolutely foundational. Progesterone down, estrogen down, and testosterone down. So they lower inflammation and also build up and repair the gut and intestines. And if you've had brain injuries as well, that's a big problem. That can show up, 2 to 10 years later. Really, really deleterious. So if you've had brain injuries, that could be driving it. And also glycosylated end products is simply AGEs, and I'll speak about that next. Intestinal inflammation and autoimmune disease that's progressing that you've got no clue about. So basically, we'll just focus in on stress for a moment, then I'll talk about the AGEs. So stress, whether that's emotional stress, physical stress, overtraining in the gym, or chemical stress, pesticides, plastics, all of that shit, your personal care products and non-stick fry pans, all of that crap, it's going to increase stress hormone production and cause a leaky gut and dysbiosis. Now let's talk about AGEs. So AGEs are in a lot of foods that you're eating. If you eat an inflammatory diet, big food, big problem. And if your blood sugar is dysregulated, called dysglycemia, which means your blood sugar is too high too often, you actually make AGEs endogenously in your body. And guess what it does? It causes advanced skin aging. So as this paper concludes, there's ample evidence that AGEs, advanced glycation end products, play an important role in skin aging. So check this out right here. So when scientists say something is causative, which is these AGEs, advanced glycation end products, they have been linked to degenerative diseases like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, ALS, heart disease, diabetes, kidney disease, wrinkles, loss of skin elasticity, infertility. So as you can see here, these AGEs, they're not much good. Drooping of the eyes, the crow's feet, dark circles, discoloration, your skin starts to sag. Not helpful at all. Another paper all about AGEs. You can see what they're doing all the way along here, but we're just focusing on the gut. Now, I've done another video about how to optimize blood glucose. It's linked below, and as you'll see, it's foundational for a healthy gut, and it's also going to help you with a lot of other things. Now, My good friend Dr. J, when he did his 5-year PhD on sex hormones, he did Alzheimer's research and he also did cholesterol. This is what he said about the current recommendations for fasting blood sugar. It's not even close. It's not optimal. And that's the point. Listen carefully to this, my friends.
85, or for us Aussies or people in the UK there,
4.7.
it's 4.7. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we have to really understand, is just to keep that blood sugar below that thick level. And the mainstream doctors say 100 is okay. I mean, it's really not, is it?
Oh, it's insane. It's completely insane. What they do in the medical system with sugar is they wait until you get full-blown diabetes before they like to complain about it, because that's when they can start selling drugs. It always goes back to the drug sales and how they're trying to manipulate things for that. But you don't want to wait until you get diabetes to pay attention to your blood sugar. You want to be optimized, right? That's the whole goal.
So as you can see there, it's just not optimal, right? They'll tell you in America 100 and below is okay. Us Aussies 5.5 or in European units there, that's okay. No, we need to get it 85 and below, or for us Aussies 4.7 and below. So 85 for your legends and 4.7 for us Aussies. Now, if you think about the gallbladder, let me just quickly go back up there. This is how critical gallbladder function is. Insulin sensitivity, glucose homeostasis. I mean, can you see how it all interplays? Like if you want healthy glucose, we have to fix the gut. It really is that simple. So if we got an unhealthy gut, we're going to have issues with heart disease, all of these big issues starting to play up, and we don't want that. And of course, thyroid hormone is absolutely foundational, because you got a gut thyroid axis, and it's basically modulates the microbiome. It triggers rest and digest through the vagus nerve there, along with acetylcholine. So make sure you get optimal choline, vitamins and minerals, enough protein to make glutathione. Remember, glutathione is just 3 amino acids, glutamine, glycine, cysteine. So all of those things need to be dialed in. And another big consideration, my friends, is you got to trigger rest and digest. You have to have a much healthier relationship with food. Because if you're in sympathetic nervous tone because you don't have enough choline, or you're stressed out, anxiety, you got a sick gut, it inhibits the gut from working. You release glucose from the liver into circulation. So your glucose goes up, you create these AGEs. It inhibits the intestines, and also you secrete more stress hormones, and you can't relax the bladder, right? So rest and digest, healthy relationship with food. So just to conclude here, well, not conclude, but just to go over everything, the summary right here, we have to have a healthy gut. It's the foundation. So step number 1, if you haven't done that already, watch the first video, the north to south model, and I spoke about digestion. So that's the gallbladder and the pancreas, doing all of that, and how to get a healthy intestinal barrier there. And we're talking about the GI map there. So basically, you can get a GI map done, but you got to get it interpreted. So you want to work with a healthcare professional that knows how to interpret that GI map there. So, really simple to do if you know what you're doing there. So a functional medical doctor, he can reach out to me. There should be information below to reach out to me, and I can show you how to get your gut back to health. And just, like really serious. I mean, holy shit. Medical systems say it's idiopathic. These autoimmune diseases like Hashimoto's for your thyroid, like rheumatoid arthritis, colitis, the list goes on, and Parkinson's disease. And I mean, holy crap, 10% of cases, 20 to 40. And there's the early warning signs right there. I mean, I don't want to live like that. I don't know about you. Gluten's a big problem, as we now know. It can destroy your brain as well, not just your gut. And the GI map's going to help you figure that one out. And the gallbladder, I mean, wow, what is it doing? And then we got to make sure we got adequate vitamins and minerals and choline and amino acids to do the heavy lifting in the liver. And the GI map will show, we're not digesting our fats. We need to do something here. Our beta-glucuronidase is up too high. So all the hard work that our liver does, it gets undone, and a lot of it goes back into systemic circulation for round 2. So you're just always coming down. You're up and down all over the place, and it's destroying your gut because you can't trigger rest and digest and heal the body. So really important to understand that. And, things like Akkermansia, as I mentioned there, Akkermansia, if I got it here, there it is. Like Akkermansia, a lot of the people that we test with Akkermansia, they have basically 0 of it. And there's a lot of reasons as to why that is, but the GI map will show you there. And, beyond that, biofilm can be a big issue because you got chronic reoccurring infections every 2 to 6 months. So you're just like, oh God, what do I do? Well, the biofilm is the problem. This pathogenic planktonic bacteria, they start to build these protective cocoons. They explode out every 2 to 6 months, and you got these chronic infections, thrush, UTI, gut, upper respiratory, sinus, things like that. And of course, genetics plays into it. So lectins, nightshades, mushrooms, you got plant sterols, glucose, and also, blood sugar dysregulation and gluten there. I'm getting pretty excited towards the end of this year. But there's a lot of things that you can do clearly. And of course, protect the gut. Make sure none of this is happening. Stress, get that under control, emotional eating. Make sure your hormones are in the up position so you got healthy, balanced hormones. And yeah, blood sugar. We just got to make sure that we've got good blood sugar. And there's information below about that there because we don't want to age really bad. We don't want all of these degenerative diseases coming playing out there. Thyroid's absolutely huge. Rest and digest. It goes all back to gut health. Now, if you find this really complicated and you want to work with someone like me, there's information below to book a call, and I'll walk you through what we call RIAS, which is rebuild your inner strength. So you're rebuilding yourself from the inside out. And I'll walk you through our complete 9-step protocol, and I'll be able to ascertain whether to get you back to health might take 3+ months, 6+ months, or worst case scenario, 12+ months. So some people, it can take that long. If you're an older gentleman and you're packing on the fat, you got the arthritis and you feel like you're just not doing too well, it's probably going to take a bit of time to get you back to health because you've got epigenetic gene modifications going on over time. And just want to mention too that in November, I will be in Los Angeles, California, speaking for 2 days on the weekend, 9th and 10th, at a convention over there, talking all about RIAS there. So we're going to be talking about genetics, the microbiome, things like that. So I'll have information coming on about that. Dr. J is going to be in the house speaking there because I believe in my heart you're only as good as your team. And that's why we work with experts like Dr. J, functional doctors, clinical nutritionists, and why I'm a certified nutritional consultant. So if you want to book that call, do that because who's got time to live, just suboptimal? Because a lot of men out there are suffering with anxiety and depression, and I'm here to show you that you can live strong. And it all starts with rebuilding your inner strength, my friends. So if you like these videos, drop a comment below, and I'll see you on the next one.